Hello guys, this is deliciousVB here, and I am back after a very, very long break. I don't have the time to explain right now, I'm sorry, but it's a really, really long story, but I am back, and this is going to be the Beginners Series Video 9 for the Visual Basic Beginners Series. In this video, we will be covering functions and subs and what is different, how to create one of your own, and all of that important information that you may need to know when creating class libraries and even when coding regular programs. So I'm just going to name my program Test Program because in this, I'm going to do more explaining than creating. So I'm just going to name my program Test. It's not really going to go anywhere. Like I said, I'm going to explain a lot. So I'm going to wait for my program to load. Okay, and it's loaded up. What I can do is just go to my Solution Explorer. Hold on a sec, wait for it. Right click on Form 1 and click on View Code. And as you see, there will be no subs or functions already inside this code. Now, let's first go over a sub. A sub is a way of executing a certain piece of code. It's just a simple execution. Now, let's get one example of a sub. Thinking, what would be a sub? How come I can't think of one? Come on. Okay, process.start, okay? Now, when there's a creation of a sub, and then there's an execution of a sub. Now, creation of a sub would be something like this. Let's create the sub process.start. First, it has to be in the class. It has to be in the class process, okay? We're just keeping this simple because I don't want to introduce anything else but classes, functions, and subs. So it has to be in the class process. And then inside the class process, you have to have this function, or rather the sub, called start. So we're going to create private because after the last dot that comes in the programming, that is the name of the sub. And you may think, well, how come the sub isn't already coded into my program? Because that's what the .NET framework is. It's basically a bunch of subs and functions already implemented into this program so that you can just execute the subs. You don't need to code the subs, which is a great relief. If you needed to code the subs, it would be extremely hard to create programs. So all you need to do is execute these pieces of codes. You don't need to actually create the codes, which is very, very good. Now, process.start, and then we're going to say private sub start. And then we're going to create parentheses. Now, if you see when you, hold on, it's going to create an error, don't worry. When you go double click on Form 1, and you should know by now, creates a sub called form1_load. Now, yes, this is a sub, obviously, because it says sub here. Now, you see form1 load, and then you see bival sender, this is one, but you don't need to worry about this huge chunk. You could delete it, and it would work fine. Now, then you might ask, why is it there? More specifically, what do the bivals mean? Well, bival is a basic, let's put it at this. It's a basic method of input. So let's say I put bival proc or process as, sorry about that typo. I do that all the time when I'm typing as. Bival proc as, let's just make it a string. Bival proc as string. Okay, now what this does is that when you're executing the sub, you need to enter a string type. You need to manually type a string or a value that will now be declared as proc in this code. So once you hit enter, because VB is so, Visual Basic 2010 Express is so awesome, it will automatically create an end sub. Now, since we have this bival proc as string here, what you can do is that you can just simply say process.start. Actually, you can do that in here. But let's just leave that out for a second. Let's just create a message box saying you attempted to start proc. Okay. And I'm going to make this a public sub. And it says you attempted to start, hold on, not proc, but the actual value of proc. Now, the only reason we can achieve this value is because it is already entered by the user at the time of execution. Okay, so that is what's so awesome about subs and functions also. So let's say we do form unload here. We could say process, hold on a second. Okay, so what I did here is that I deleted the class just for saving confusion, and I put the sub inside the class of form1. So what we can do now inside the sub of form1 load is that we can execute this sub. So we can say start, and look, it says proc as string. So now we have to insert a string. So let's say the string is hello. Okay. Now you do that, and you close the parentheses, and this simple line will execute what is inside here with, of course, this input. So it's fairly simple. Let's make another example. Let's say, hold on, let me check my time left. Okay, instead of doing another example, I'm going to move on to functions quickly. Functions are the same as subs, except functions return a value. So not only do functions execute a piece of code, but they also return a value. So let's say let's say substring. We all know the method, the function substring, or not all of us, but it's getting a part of a string. So we have the string hello here. Now let's say hello. Okay, hold on. Something's confused. Okay, let's say dim str as string equals hello, and let's say str dot substring 0 1. Okay, now Visual Basic throws no error, but there's something wrong with this code here, and maybe you can figure it out. It's the fact that it seems like it's missing something, right? str.substring 0 1. Now, this substring 0 1 is completely correct. It means get the first character of the word, which in this case is hello. I mean, in this case, it's H. Now, so what's weird about this? Well, since substring returns, in this case, will return the letter H, then where does this letter go? Nowhere. That's what a function is. A function is a certain piece of code that returns a value. So we could say dim str2 as string, and that value equals str.substring, and that would be perfectly fine because now str2 equals the substring of str, which is perfectly fine. Now let us create a private function, and it's going to be called let's call it add by val no1 as integer, by val no2 as integer. And now here's the difference. After this we have to say, because it's a function, we have to say as. Now here we will tell the program what data type it will return. So if we say integer, when we execute this, so let's say substring. In this case, substring returns a string. Okay, so if you saw the codes of substring, it would say as string. Okay, now here we have a function. So inside this function, we're going to say return. So return means return a specific value. This is typically the last line of your code, but it can really be any line. Now, return is what it says here for substring. In substring's case, it would say return some value. Now, it might be more clear. This is what the program returns. So this substring, in this case, substring returns H. Now return is almost always a variable. Okay? Almost always. I'm telling you, it is barely ever a string. If it was a string, there would be no point. So substring, this would return H as a variable, but that variable is a string, so it would return a string H. Now return, so let's say return no1 plus no2. Now in this case, the program would do no1 plus no2. Now let's say no1 was 1, no2 was 2. It would return 1 plus 2 as an integer, which would equal 3. So this is how you remember it. Okay? Return a specific value. Okay, return a specific value as a specific data type. Okay, this is how I remembered my functions. This is how I remember to code them, how to use them, how to read them. Okay, this is what I did. Okay, return specific value as a specific data type. Okay, so if we return no1 plus no2, now instead we'll say private, not private, we don't need that. We'll just say, and we can delete that, we'll just say add no1 and comma, because this is a method of input, add 1, 2. And since, like I said, this is a method of input, you have to put 2 input values here. And then it will add no1, which happens to be 1, and no2, which happens to be 2. And it will do no1 plus no2. It will return no1 plus no2 as an integer. So in this case, we can do this. Dim int as integer equals add 1, 2. And 1 plus 2 is 3, so int will be set as 3. So that was pretty much, I have barely any time left, so thank you for watching. I hope you learned stuff about subs and functions. This was a really long lesson. I really hope you learned something. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a comment. I really want feedback. I don't get a lot of feedback, so I really want it. Thanks for all your positive feedback. Subscribe if you liked the video, okay? And make sure to watch other videos in the series, and I'm not going to save it. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.